Hello! Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this 1/12 scale 3-drawer sideboard or chest. It has this lovely shaped top and bottom, and the effect I've used is black over gold, and then I've aged the piece so that the gold will show through. And for this project I've used again a wood called a beche, and that's spelled O-B-E-C-H-E, and it's a lovely soft wood which is really easy to work with and takes paint and varnish really well. And I've used two thicknesses of sheet wood, a 1.5mm and a 2.5mm, so that's 1/16 of an inch and 3/32 of an inch. And then I've used a strip wood for the corner posts and feet, and that's 5mm or 13/64 of an inch. And you'll need a good wood glue, and I use Gorilla wood glue, really strong and bonds really quickly, so you don't have to hang around too long in between attaching parts. I've used a black emulsion paint. This is part of the Farrow and Ball collection, but any emulsion sort of sample pot will do. For the gold paint I've used this Rustin's gold paint, which is a quick drying paint, and over the whole piece I've used a clear satin finish varnish, and again that's a Rustin's one, but any sort of interior varnish will do. Craft knife, like this Swan Morton knife, which takes a size 10A blade. Always put a new blade in at the start of a project. Pencil with a nice sharp nib for accurate marking. A steel rule, obviously for measuring and for cutting the wood along with your craft knife. Piece of paper and some scissors for when we come to shape the top and bottom pieces there. And I also use a scribe, which is a tool with a pointed end, and this is actually out of an old electrical kit, but it does the job perfectly. You'll need 6 drawer handles or drawer pulls. You could use wooden drawer knobs if you prefer. I think a sort of brass or antique brass handle suits the style of the piece better. So the cutting lists are coming up next, and then we'll get started. Okay, so we're going to begin by attaching the side mouldings to the side pieces. So I've just dispensed some glue here onto a piece of card, and I'm using a cocktail stick to apply it with. So apply glue to the back of each moulding. And then just glue that so it sits right along the top of that side piece. Press it into place. Make sure it's flush with that top edge. And I'm just going to use a clean cocktail stick to remove the excess glue. And then stick the remaining moulding along the other edge. Again, making sure it's flush. Remove the glue, and then use clamps or clothes pegs, and I'm using clothes pegs just because I've got more of them, just to hold those into place, like so, until the glue has dried. And do that with both side pieces, and just pop those to one side to dry. And then take the back piece, and we're going to make a pencil line down the shortest side, 38.5mm from this left hand edge, and if you're working in inches that's 1.5, just over 1.5 inches. So 38mm, just make a pencil mark at the top and bottom of the piece. join that up just with a faint pencil line. And then the same thing again, so begin by applying glue to the back of the moulding. This is the horizontal moulding here. And glue that along that top edge. And then take the vertical moulding, and again apply glue to the back. And then glue that into place. It sits just to the right of that pencil line, and so that you're just hiding that pencil line as well. Press that into place. And again, just remove that excess glue. So much easier to remove the glue while it's still sort of tacky. And then attach the final horizontal moulding along that bottom edge. Like so. And again, I'm going to use pegs to hold those into place. And remember to pop one on that middle moulding as well. And this just stops the wood from lifting as the glue is drying. That tends to happen when you're attaching mouldings to pieces of wood. And again, that can be left to dry. So once you've allowed enough time for the glue to dry, remove the pegs and then just very gently sand each piece on all edges. So just hold it against the sandpaper and just move along in the one direction. Don't rock it back and forth or you'll round off the corners. And do that on all edges. I've actually already done this piece. And then we're going to attach a leg to each side. So apply glue along each side. And lay that flat on your worktop and just press a leg to each edge like so. And just carefully turn that round and press that all together. And again, you can use a clean cocktail stick just to remove that excess glue from in there. And again, that can be left to dry. Do both pieces. Okay, we're now going to make pencil lines across the side and back piece to help with the placement of the shelves. So turn the back piece onto the flat side and we're going to make pencil lines at 19mm and 38mm across the longest edge. So that's 19mm and 38, just make pencil marks at that end. And if you're working in inches, that's 3/4 of an inch and 1.5 inches. And the same at the other end, 19 and 38, and then just join those up with a faint pencil line, like that. And do the same on each of the side pieces, and then apply glue along one edge of the back piece, And then we're going to attach it so that it sits towards the front of this, what will become the back leg or back corner. And I'll just glue that into place, and then I'll show you from the top angle so you can see what I mean. Just hold that into place for a moment. I want to make sure that it's flush at the top and bottom. The pencil lines will help with that. And if I just show you that from that angle, so you can see that you've got a bit of an overhang there at the back. So this is sat towards the front of that post. Make sure I've got that in the right position there so you can see what I mean. And then you've got the same lip at the back as you have here at the side. Lay that down flat. And just let the glue just dry off for a couple of minutes, and then we'll attach the shelves. So once you've allowed time for the glue just to dry off a bit so that this back piece is secure, take the top piece and apply glue along one short and one long edge. And then glue that into place so it's flush with the top of those joined pieces and on the inside edge. Just use your finger to make sure that it's sitting flush, and you can press that back piece against it to make sure that's completely upright. And then use your cocktail stick to remove any excess glue from inside. And then you can take your next shelf piece and again apply the glue to one short and one long edge. And then glue that into place so it sits just above that second pencil line. So you can just see the pencil line just below the shelf. And bring that back bit in so that it's upright there. And just check that everything looks square. Again, remove any excess glue. On the next shelf, same thing again. Oops. Again, so it's just above that line. And then finally the bottom piece. And that bit so that it sits flush again with the bottom of those two pieces. And then apply glue to all of these edges. and attach the remaining side. And again, you can use these pencil lines just to make sure that everything remains where it should. All these front edges should be flush. And then just have a look inside and make sure that those shelves are just above those pencil lines. And if not, just carefully reposition everything. Just press that all together. And then I just want to use some masking tape over that end just to hold that all together. So I've got some 1 inch or 25mm thick tape here. And I'm just going to put that right over that end, pull it quite tightly, and then I just want to make sure that that shelf is staying there. Probably haven't got enough glue on that. And keep checking that everything's staying where it should. And I'm going to pop just a little bit more masking tape over in the other direction. You can use clamps if you've got them. I prefer tape, I think, because you can just be more precise with it. Over that end as well. And then once again, that can be left until the glue has completely dried. So once you've allowed enough time for the glue to dry, remove the masking tape and then just sand the unit on the top and bottom, just going across the sandpaper in the one direction. And I've already done this piece, and that will just ensure that you've got a nice flush top and bottom edge for when we attach the shaped top and bottom. Just pop that to one side. Now in the cutting list I advise that you cut the pieces for the drawers after construction of the unit, and that's just because slight misplacement of any of these shelves or the top and bottom pieces will affect the size of these drawer openings. So it's always best to wait until you've constructed the unit and then measure the drawer openings and cut the drawer pieces accordingly. So when you're cutting the pieces, measure across, and then I always deduct about 0.5 millimetre. I think that's 1/32 of an inch, so just a tiny amount from the width, and then again measure the height of the drawer opening and deduct that same amount again. And that's just to allow for the glue, and then if you're painting the piece as well, that will all add sort of thickness to the drawer. So it's always best just to take a little tiny amount off before you cut the pieces, and that will just ensure a nice smooth fit in there. So I've cut all of the pieces, and then just begin by applying glue to the outer edges of that base piece, so the narrow sides. Oops, try not to get stuck to your glue. And then attach the side pieces. Just press those into place. And then that piece can then be left to dry. And I've got one here that I did earlier. And then apply glue to the front and back edges. attach the front and back pieces, just ensuring that this side is flush with the edge of each piece. So you might just need to pull the side bits in a bit, and you can still do that even after the glue has dried. The other side as well. And then just very carefully press that all together. And again, that piece can be left until it's completely dried. And I have the third drawer here that is now completely dry, and then I sand them on all edges, and including the top and bottom. And I've already done this, so I won't do it again because it's a horrible sound. And then when you're doing the side, just go across again in the one direction, and that will just ensure that you've got a nice smooth drawer that will just glide easily into the opening. Okay, that should be dry enough now for me to attach the front and back piece. Okay, so we're now going to shape the unit top and bottom pieces, and we're going to begin by making a template. So cut a scrap of paper measuring 93mm by 42mm, or if you're working in inches, that's 3 11/16 by 1 11/16, and fold that in half lengthways. And then just snip away that corner, just a tiny bit from the corner there. And then draw a curve from the centre here, so that it sort of dips down and then comes back up again just before that little corner. And that's just a simple curve, and then we're going to cut that out. Like that, and then unfold that, and there's the shape for the two pieces. So place it onto one of the pieces, they're the same size so it doesn't matter which one, and just so that the cutout is just beneath the sort of front of the piece, just so you've got enough room there to get the pencil nib, and then just draw around that. And then take your Scribe Tool, which is this tool with a nice sharp pointed end, and using it like a pencil, you just want to go over that line you've just drawn. So you're not trying to score too deeply into the wood, but you're just sort of making a shallow groove. And I find that doing this first really helps when you come to then cut out the piece with your craft knife. So go over it a couple of times. And then take your craft knife, and I've just put a new blade in, which makes it so much easier. And I can't stress enough how careful to be here of your fingers. So always sort of be aware of where they are in relation to the blade. So we'll begin by just cutting off those corners. And then again, holding the knife rather like a pencil, and just using the very tip, just start cutting through those grooves. And again, you're not trying to cut right through at this stage, we're just making them deeper, and then we'll just keep going until we've cut through. It's worth practicing this first on a piece of scrap wood. And just take your time, and eventually they'll just start to come loose like that, or come away rather. Just always being careful. And don't try and rush it. Eventually it will go through. Like that. And then take a piece of fine grade sandpaper and just sort of sweep it along the edge. And you're going along, but also sort of bringing it from front to back as well, so that we're making a bit of a bevel on this top edge. And you can do that along the sides as well. And we're just really sort of tidying up that cut we've just made. You can round off those cut corners so we haven't got any sort of sharp edges. So very lightly, very gently, just sort of sweeping it along the curve. And we don't want to take sort of away from the depth here. Like that, and you can do that on the other side as well. Just make that slight bevel. So create the bottom piece in exactly the same way, and then we'll come back and attach them. Okay, so we're now going to attach the unit top and bottom. So apply glue to the top and bottom of the unit. You can do it one at a time if you like. Make sure you get it onto these corner posts as well, and right to the edges. And then doing the bottom piece first, and I know the top because the top has got the narrowest drawer, so just double check which way around, although it doesn't really matter as the top and bottom pieces are the same. And you want to apply it so that the back of the piece is flush with the back of the unit, and so that you've got an even overhang at either side. And you can just do that by eye, but if you're not very good at measuring by eye, you can just get the ruler, and there should be about 1 millimetre at either side. Just place that down there, and then the same with the top piece. And again, always choose your nicest edge to be facing upwards. and there probably always will be a nicer edge. And same again, so use your finger to make sure the back is flush with the back of the unit, so you've got that straight edge along the back and that there's an even overhang at either side. And like I say, I'm doing these at the same time, but if you just want to do the top and then do the bottom, that's fine. And then just take a clean cocktail stick and remove the excess glue from around the edges. Not forgetting that back edge. Just press those together. And then making sure that everything is staying in the right position, I'm just going to use some masking tape to hold those into place. So I've cut a couple of strips for the top and the bottom and pull it quite tightly. The bottom as well. And then I'm going to put a strip across the front of each piece as well. Again, pull that down quite tightly. And you can see already the wood is trying to curl away from the unit, which is why it's so important to secure things while the glue is drying. And then just have a look around that back, and if it's lifting away at the back, just use a few pieces of tape there as well and pull them down again quite tightly. Do one at each edge there. And then that side as well. And then at the front of the unit I'm going to use clamps. And the clamps are stronger than pegs for this type of thing, so it is best to use the clamps. Pull at the bottom as well. And then I'm going to put one in the middle. I might actually be able to get two in the middle there. You can never have enough clamps, so just fit on as many as you possibly can, and that'll then stop there being any gaps once the glue has dried. And these clamps are available in my Etsy store. Shameless plug, but there's a link at the top of the page, and they're really good because they're really nice and tight. And that then can be left until the glue has completely dried. And do be patient, because if you do take them off before, it'll just all lift away. Okay, so once you've allowed enough time for the glue to dry, remove the clamps and the masking tape. And just bear in mind, when you remove the tape, it will probably sort of pull up splinters in the wood. So just use a fine grade sandpaper and just sand the top and bottom smooth. And then take one of the leg pieces and hold it against your a piece of sandpaper on your worktop, and just very, very slightly raise the back, so you're just lifting it off of the sandpaper, and then pull it towards you. And what we're doing here is just tapering the bottom of the foot or the leg to give it a nicer shape. And then turn it over and do the opposite side. So you're just lifting it very, very slightly off the paper, and try to do it the same amount of times as well, and then you'll get an even sort of bevel. I think you can just see there that's just starting to curve inwards at each side, and then do the remaining two sides. That just gives you a nice sort of tapered little foot there. So do that to all 4 pieces, and then remember which is the top, because the narrower drawer will be at the top. So turn it over, and then we want to attach these feet so that they're level with the leg, so that it looks like a continuation of the leg or the corner post coming down like that. So do it by eye. So just apply a dot of glue to the foot, and then just put it into place roughly, and then you can just turn the piece to the front and to the side and just check that you're in the right place. So do that on all 4 corners. And at the back it will be again flush with that back edge, and then just turn to the side and make sure that you're directly below the corner post. And that they're square on as well. So once you've attached all 4 feet, that piece can be left to dry, and then it will be ready to paint. So I'm going to use the black on gold effect on all of the items of furniture that will be going in the doll's house front room. So I've begun with the gold paint, and on the unit itself I've just gone around all the sort of edges and places where sort of natural wear and tear will occur. So along the edges of the feet there, the drawer fronts, and around the edges of the top and bottom pieces, and then I've painted the fronts of the actual drawers as well. So now I'm going to do a coat of black emulsion, and then when that's dry we'll sand away to reveal the gold paint beneath. So I've given everything one coat of the black paint, and I've begun already with the drawers. I'm just using fine grade sandpaper. You can see that there. I've just gone along each edge of the drawer front just to allow the gold to show through. I only want it to be very subtle, so I've just done along the edges there. And now I'm going to do the actual unit, and always just do a little at a time. And I want to go along the edges and places where sort of natural wear and tear would occur. Bottom edge. Okay, so now I'm happy with the gold that I've picked out there. I'm going to apply a coat of clear varnish to the drawer fronts and to the whole of the unit. Now when you're using clear varnish over a dark paint, always just dispense a little bit into a pot, otherwise you'll contaminate the liquid in the tin. So the varnish is now completely dried, and the final job is to add the drawer handles, or the drawer pulls. And I found this lovely sort of antique brass pull with this little sort of drop handle. And because it's difficult to make pencil marks on the dark wood, I've just cut a little piece of card here, which is 14mm square, or that's 9/16 of an inch, and I'm just going to use that to help me place the handles in the same position from each end of the drawer. So just place that there right at the end, and these are quite handy because you can hold on to the little drop handle. They're concave in the middle, so I'm just going to apply a little bit of glue around the edge. And then I'm just using my eye as to the position from top and bottom so that it's sort of in the centre that way as well. Twist that round so the straight bit at the top of the handle is level with the top of the drawer. I think that's about right. And then put the little template at the other end and do the same thing again. And I can order these handles in, and I'm going to add some to my Etsy store. I haven't got any there at the moment, but if you'd like some, just let me know. And just press that into place. Remove any excess glue. And there is the completed unit. I hope you've enjoyed this project. If so, please do subscribe to the channel, and there's lots more to come, and there'll be lots more pieces in this range as well. This is for my own doll's house living room. I'll be making several pieces of furniture to match. And if you haven't already done so, please have a look at My Doll's House Diary, which is a series I'm running. There's 2 episodes so far, where you can follow my progress as I redecorate and furnish my 12th scale doll's house. And for now, thank you for watching.